Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Ivani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Monday, June 9th. We begin a new week, but seem to be singing the same old tune. Tariff talks and inflation remain top of mind for investors this week. On Friday, all three major indices did end in the green following the latest jobs data. The Dow gained 443 points, or just more than 1%. The S&P 500 advanced 61 points, or just more than 1%. The Nasdaq moved higher by 231 points, or 1.2%. Bill, let's get into Monday in a new week with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 0.12%. That's positive. It's a Monday. I mean, the key catalyst today is really those U.S. China trade talks that are scheduled to begin today. They're taking place in London, but there's a lot on the calendar today. I mean, Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference that gets underway today. The keynote speech is later today as well. There were no changes in the S&P 500 index, the rebalancing, which took place on Friday. As a result, you're seeing some weakness in AppLovin, ticker APP, and Robinhood, ticker HOOD. Warner Brothers, they're getting ready to split into two separate companies. Qualcomm, they're agreed to buy AlphaWave for about $2.4 billion. And Meta apparently is in talks to acquire AI company Scale AI. It's kind of quiet on the economic front. The attention really is going to be later this week with the release of the CPI and the PPI reports, and of course that University of Michigan sentiment survey. On the earnings front, nothing significant on Friday afternoon or this morning. After the bell today, we do get CASY stores, and later this week we get Oracle and Adobe. They're going to be releasing. Turning our attention over to Europe and seeing how the trading action is going over there. We are seeing European markets slide, not significantly. The DAX is down 172 points, which is 0.71%. You're seeing some, weakness though in autos, banks, and techs in Germany. London, the FTSE's down 22 points, or 0.25%. Weakness in defense stocks and aerospace stocks in France. The market's down 0.25%. Financials are weak too. I mean, sentiment is weak. And a lot of this is due to the weakening economic data that came out of China overnight. But you look at the Asian markets overnight, and they were positive. I mean, the Nikkei jumped 0.92%, or 346 points. And you did see gains in tech stocks. I mean, Japan's Q1 GDP was revised upward from to show flat growth essentially. I mean, the initial estimate was a negative 0.2, and so now it's essentially flat. So okay. Hong Kong up 388 points, or 1.63%. I saw gains in tech that really led the way. Shanghai and China up 0.43%. They give temporary approval for rare earth exports and Boeing to resume commercial jet deliveries. That's kind of positive. And then we're taking a look at oil. And oil, it's funny to me because oil is trading higher this morning by about 0.5%. You got WTI at $64.89, and you got Brent at $66.83. I don't know if it's going to be able to hold these gains because, the data out of China, consumer prices declined for the fourth month in a row in May, and producer deflation accelerated to like near 2-year lows. That's gonna kind of weigh on oil prices, I would think, but there is some positive sentiment over the U.S. China talks. But we'll have to keep an eye on oil to see if it weakens later today. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, as we start this new week, are keeping a pulse on all of that market moving information and still digging into other details that could be moving markets today, including earnings action, economic events, and other market moving headlines. We will get through all of it on today's show. We'll start with earnings action. We're a little bit slow here this morning, a couple of to look ahead to. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings?
Yeah, no significant earnings came out this morning or Friday after the bell. But upcoming, after the bell today, you got CASY stores. They're Their EPS is $31.26. Put call ratio is 2.49. That's kind of high. Smucker's Jam, SJM, they're releasing tomorrow morning. Their expected move is $5.67. Expected move, the put call ratio is 0.43. So there could be something there. But that's all I have for you in terms of our earnings announcements, Emily.
Bill, you also mentioned that economic reports will pick up throughout the week as we get some more information on inflation. And we are anticipating that upcoming FOMC meeting. So watching these reports becomes important, but we may not be hearing a lot from Fed officials between now and then. So we'll keep track of the economic reports. Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
11 a.m., you get consumer inflation expectations. At 1 p.m., you get the Atlanta Fed GDP now. The Fed is in blackout period because they got a meeting, an FOMC meeting, July 17th and 18th. I just want to point out on Friday, President Trump stated he would soon announce his decision regarding prospective nominee for the Federal Reserve chair, as Jerome Powell's term is set to expire next year. It's like expiring in May of 2026, I believe. He's kind of doing this to kind of put pressure on the Fed to lower interest rates because he's got this guy in the wings that's going to be pushing for lower interest rates and is going to be making comments about how the Fed is making mistakes. But, the Fed is a board. It's not one guy making the decision. So, all these comments are going to really be done in vain, but it's going to create a little bit of havoc, going into it. But the Fed is going to continue to be data driven. That's what they always have been. That's what they always will be. So the idea that this guy's going to come in and change the narrative by making comments ahead of it is essentially futile, but it just gives Trump the ability to say that, people agree with me. But, one person, you got one guy agreeing with you, and that's only because he wants the job. Everybody else is saying, no, interest rates should stay as they are. So it's going to create a little bit of havoc, but chaos is what we come to used to, or is what we come to expect from the Trump administration. Jobless, the jobless report on Friday. Hey, the economy added 139,000 jobs in May. That beat expectations. So that was kind of positive, but there's still signs of strain. So you got to be careful there. But that's what I have for you in terms of economic data happening today, Emily.
And Bill, as we do navigate what can turn into chaos sometimes, keeping track of all of the information, every move that the presidential administration is making, along with those economic events, earnings reports, and other market moving information helps us stay calm no matter what we're sort of handed on any given trading day. And like every other morning, this morning, you're not only following earnings action and those economic events, you're also keeping a finger on the pulse of things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news. You're looking at your stocks grouped together, like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 21 higher, 8 lower, and 1 unchanged. That's kind of positive walking into the day. And then you're looking at your FANG stocks. A little weakness in Netflix and Tesla, but everything else is trading higher. So we could have a decent day today. In terms of the news hitting the tape, I mean, listen, it starts off with WWDC and Apple, a Worldwide Developers Conference. That they're expected to make some announcements regarding their product lines. Could be something on AirPods, could be a higher price on iPhones. We'll have to wait and see. But the keynote speeches today, so that's going to be a key focus for Apple today. Meanwhile, those shares are trading higher. What else do we see? Interesting. Google, the UK is delaying proposals to regulate AI. They need to do this because that they don't want to be continually finding these FANG stocks because it's bad for the trade negotiations if they do that. Meta Platforms is in talks to make a multi-billion-dollar investment into AI startup Scale AI. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, we got Boeing preps to resume deliveries to China as China lifts the ban. UNH, United Healthcare, trading higher this morning by about a little over 0.5%. They're considering multiple bids for its Latin America unit. Aims to get about $1 billion for their Latin America unit. In terms of merger news, Qualcomm buys AlphaWave IP for $2.4 billion. Warner Brothers Discovery is going to be splitting into two media companies. There's more details to follow on that. No real guidance news. But in terms of shareholders meeting, DigitalOcean, ticker DOCN, David, Oscar, Charlie, Nancy, they're having a shareholders meeting today at noon. Reddit, ticker RDDT, Richard, David, Tom, they're having a shareholders meeting today at 1 p.m. There could be something there. And that's what I have for you in terms of news in the tape this morning.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to start the week?
Going with United Natural Foods, UNFI, Uncle Nancy Frank India. Earnings are tomorrow morning. EPS is 24 cents. Expected move is 15.08% when they release. Now, Friday's call volume, 459 calls versus 170 puts. That's 2-1. Open interest, 9,811 to 4,010. Again, 2-1. Okay. Problem is, I don't see none of the major brokers follow this stock. So that kind of doesn't check all my boxes. But, they did raise guidance last quarter after delivering a beat of 6 cents. If I can get in the stock, 27.40 to 27.55, somewhere around there, I think it would be a good trade. But that's my pick of the day. United Foods, UNFI. I don't really want to hold it into earnings. I really want to get out before it because I'm just a little bit concerned. But that's my pick of the day. UNFI, 27.40 to 27.55, Emily.
Bill, returning to an earnings play today, we will follow UNFI along with you. And coming up, we will do a recap on Friday's pick of the day before we sign off. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our Hot Off the Press segment. Bill, take it away.
Tesla's getting hit with a lot of downgrades. No, it's not good. There's a Goldman Sachs healthcare conference that starts today. Summit Technologies, S&amp, they're going to be presenting today. Summit Therapeutics. The Trump administration has had a series of meetings with companies on most favored nation pricing. That includes Pfizer, PFD, because the Pfizer CEO notes that the meetings were cordial. Let's see what else we have. Car executives have once again been driven into their big top meeting rooms over concerns about export controls on rare earth magnets. Chevron CEO told employees they need to reinforce safety standards after growing number of entries and near misses. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into a new week of trading, let's do a check back on Friday's pick of the day, which was Apple. You did tell us during your NewsWare Alerts breakdown, as you told us on Friday, they are holding that annual Worldwide Developers Conference. And this does showcase some of the company's software innovation and what I guess have been called more low-profile hardware products. But speaking of their hardware products, I did catch a news item that Apple's iPhone 17 could see price hikes as tariff pressures continue to mount. So we'll continue to watch it on that front. But when it comes to that positive news leading into this event, Bill, you're sort of spot on with some positive momentum going into that. So how did your call work out?
Yeah, it worked out well. I mean, the stock opened up at 203 on Friday, ran to 205.70, which beat the 1%. And it really, gained some traction on that positive non-farms payroll report. I mean, the stock closed at 203.92, but you look at it this morning, it's trading 205.05 was the last trade. So, it did beat the 1% goal. I kind of thought I didn't think the farm payrolls report was going to be coming in as strong as it did. So I was kind of expecting it to be a little weaker, but either way, it did beat the 1% during the day on Friday, and it's still holding those gains and more today. So Apple, ticker AAPL, was a winner on Friday, Emily.
Another check in the win column, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's United Natural Foods pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning this week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Vani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.